this is pretty much how I set up every time I decorate cookies. I have my icings. There's only a few this time since it's a beginner kind of tutorial. I keep my cookies stacked. They've cooled already. I keep 2 sheets, one that I work on that has paper towel, and then my other one where I set the finished cookies, and I keep a fan going here so that they can dry evenly. I always keep scissors to open the bags. And then these little scribes I use when I'm decorating. This one was, I think, just a custom one on Etsy. This one's off Amazon. They come in like packs of 6. Or you can just use a toothpick. But yeah, that's kind of just how I set it up every time. Okay, so you start out with your little blank cookies here. We're just gonna start out with the most basic pumpkin. We're gonna take the orange icing, which is just the one consistency outline and flood icing that I made in my icing tutorial. It's just the regular one consistency for that. So you're gonna cut a little hole. Remember to always start small, because you can go bigger if you need, but you can't go smaller. And you're just gonna do your little outline first. We're gonna do 3 section pumpkins. So what I do is I start with the middle, and then I do the sides, or I'll do the sides and then the middle. But either way, you have to let the edges of whatever you do first crust over before you add the next section. That way you can get the nice separation that makes it look 3D. So I think with this one we'll do the sides first. And my trays get messy because I drop my little tails a lot, so that I know that I'm starting with a clean tip. So yeah, we'll do the sides first on this one. You're just gonna trace out. That one was kind of messy. I feel like I'm gonna mess up so much now that I'm doing it on camera. It makes me so much more nervous. And then do the other side. And these can be pretty close together because we're gonna add that other section to where it kind of goes over those two, if that makes sense. Then you're gonna fill it in, kind of go along the edge. Just follow it along. Kind of pushing it towards the edge when you're out there. And then just continuing to trace that shape till you get in the middle. And that one consistency icing will kind of level out and smooth out. You can shake your tray and that'll help it, or you can use your little tool to kind of work out the little wrinkles. Pull it out. Then it'll settle super smooth. And then do the same thing on the other side. And this is on my dark chocolate sugar cookie recipe. I put it on my blog recently, and I'll link it down below. I like using the dark cookies, the chocolate ones, for Halloween designs. I don't know about you, but I feel like it just makes it look extra festive. So then you're gonna let those crust over, and then we'll go ahead and add the middle section. Okay, so I moved you guys just a little bit, so hopefully you can see a little bit better, and I'm gonna try to get better at not blocking everything I do with my hands eventually. It's gonna be a learning process. We'll learn together. Okay, so this has sat for a little bit and I have my fan going, and so that helps it kind of dry a little bit quicker. Basically, it doesn't need to harden. It just needs to not be super runny. So it'll still be, like, you can still mess with it and mess it up, but it's crusted over is kind of the goal that you're going for. So now we're gonna add the middle. I'm gonna kind of try to angle it so that I don't block you guys. And it's the same thing with the middle, but what we're gonna do is kind of overlap down here so that it looks like that 3D kind of the layers that are in pumpkins. And we're gonna do the same thing on the top and leave that open for when we add the stem. You drop it kind of on top of the side layer, again, to get that 3D look. And the good thing about cookie cutters and using a no spread recipe is that you can really use the cookie as a guide for what you're doing. And if your edges aren't totally even, that's fine. You can smooth it out when you come back through again. And I felt like pumpkins are the best thing for beginners because no pumpkins in nature are super smooth. So even if it ends up a little bumpy, it's okay. Now see how on the edges it's kind of blending in together. It didn't get as puffy as I wanted it, so that means I didn't let it crust long enough. So next time I'll let it sit a little bit longer before I add the middle so that it can get that kind of puffy definition on the edges instead. And then, so you're gonna let that section set a little bit before you add the stem and the little other decorations that go on the pumpkin. And then that'll be the basic pumpkin. And then after we finish this one, I'll show you how to add like polka dots or stripes or mix the two so you can have a couple different decorations for your pumpkins. Okay, so it's only been a few minutes, but I had it in front of the fan, and the top is, you know, it's pretty good for adding just the stem and stuff. So we're gonna take the brown, and this is the like writing and detail consistency from my other frosting video. So it's what you start out with and then thin out to make these other consistencies. That's what this one's gonna be, because we're gonna do a super basic kind of detail on the top, but it'll still make it super cute. And then we'll also be using this one for the twine later. So on this, what we're gonna do is just a super basic little stem and then the little swirls on the bottom. So you'll just kind of trace the top of the pumpkin along it and then trace where the cookie stem is and then kind of overlap it like that so that it looks textured like a real pumpkin does. And then you can kind of drag these down with a super light hand into the little crevices of the pumpkin. Again, just making it look more and more detailed. And then from there, you can add the little swirls. Like that. So there is your pumpkin. It's the same thing as the first time, but this time we're gonna do it white, and then once it crusts over, we're gonna add a heart. So same things that we did with the very first orange pumpkin. Same exact moves. Except this one I'll let it crust over better in between. And I really, really love how the white looks on the dark cookie. I think it looks so nice. And the more pressure you apply, the more icing is going to come out, obviously. When you're first starting out, go slow and just use light pressure so that you don't overwhelm yourself and add too much at once. But once you get more comfortable with it, you can kind of do like 3 sections when you're filling it in, like down and then up and then down the middle. And that'll kind of just streamline the whole process instead of having to trace it and trace it and trace it, if that makes sense. So I added the stem onto this white one. And normally to add a heart on top that isn't wet on wet, I would let, first of all, this crust over a little bit longer, and then I would use a thicker icing to do the heart outline so that it wouldn't disperse at all. But this one is still pretty thick since it's the one consistency. So hopefully it'll still work out. We'll see. We'll see together. If not, you guys know what I did wrong. Okay, so this one's a little tricky because you don't have an outline to go off of like you do on the outside of the cookie. You just have to freehand a heart. For me, it's not the same till I do it on a cookie. So you might go through a couple cookies trying to get the perfect shape. But for me, I think it's best to just go for it. So yeah. When you feel like you're ready, just go ahead and add your heart. See, it's not totally perfect. I can smooth out the edges till I think it's even. And this I will let sit just a couple seconds so that it doesn't run all over the place. I might even grab my fan and kind of fan it. You don't want it to totally crust because again you'll get that weird separation line, but you don't want it to be so runny that it runs all over your pumpkin and it just looks messy. So after a few seconds, then you can fill it in. Now for polka dots, we'll do polka dots first. It's the same exact method as the very first one, but while it's wet, you're gonna add polka dots. So that's the only extra step that you do with those. And for this one, I think we'll do orange with white polka dots. So same exact steps as before. So we'll give it a little shake, get it to settle, and then you're gonna go right in with the white. And it's wet on wet, so you're just gonna add your little polka dots right on there. Any kind of pattern you want. They'll stay the size that you put them in. Don't add too much frosting though, or you will make the sides kind of overflow. Yeah. So super easy, beginner-friendly way to just add a little bit more to what you're doing. And then so you'll let that crust and then fill in the middle and add the polka dots to the middle. Okay, so we did polka dots. Now let's do some stripes. Let's do a white pumpkin. So same steps, same wet on wet process as the polka dots. Okay, so now that the sides are filled in, we're going right back in, just like with the polka dots, and we're gonna add stripes. So here's the thing with pumpkins though. They're curved, so you wanna make sure that your stripes are kind of curved so that it looks more realistic, and you wanna try to make them match up on side to side, so I'll show you kind of what I do there. Without the middle, it's kind of hard to make sure that everything matches up, so I'll start with one little stripe, pretend like I'm doing one in the middle, and then carry it on that side. And you want them to be curved, just like that. Okay, so now that the sides have crusted over on this one, we'll add the middle. Okay, and once that's done, you're just gonna connect those lines, the stripes, and curve it the same way you did the first time. And don't drag it through the frosting, kind of hang it over the frosting and drag that little tail over to the other side and it'll settle into the frosting, if that makes sense. So grab it and just like that with the curve. See, and it just makes it look so much more 3D. And then you'll add your little stem. You can add a heart if you want. And that's the stripes. On these polka dot ones, for some reason, I think it is the cutest thing to just have a little heart in the bottom corner in a color that's different than the pumpkin. And I'll show you how to do a super easy heart. Basically what you're gonna do is make two little dots and then you just pull down and connect them like that. And it's super easy and adds like the cutest little touch. Now on this one, I did two sides of orange and white stripes already. And I wanted to see what it would look like if I mixed it with blue and white polka dots, kind of like a little mixed pattern here. See, so that one's just a little funky, but adds a little something fun. You can add anything you want to these, just make them whatever you want. Okay, so on this one I wanted to do the twine. So you'll add your stem the same way we did the others. But this one I'd leave off the little curls because we're just gonna add the twine across and a bow. So what you're gonna do is like touch it down and then pick it up and drag the frosting over to where you want your meeting point to be. So you touch it down out on the edge out here and then keep pressing down and pick it up and drop it. And then down, up, 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 drop it. Same thing over here. There. So now you have this cute little twine, and what you can do is just draw on a bow. Same method that you used on that, but you're gonna make a loop and a loop, and then 2 little hang downs. And there's a little bow.